Let's take you now and listen in to that briefing.
More than any other place. It is indeed a privilege to present the technical report for the class of 2025. To use the adage or the analogy of the African that the wait is finally over for the class of 2025. It's only a matter of few hours and a few minutes. The minister will announce the results for the class of 2025. The IEB has already announced their results. And this class has really waited for 12 to 13 years of schooling. And I really want to thank the nation for having supported them and nurtured them up to this point. So a technical report is a precursor to the announcement of the results. It's a precursor because the statement of the minister or the speech of the minister wouldn't have the time or the leverage to cover details that ordinarily are covered in the technical report. So I'm going to take the next hour or so to take you through a journey of numbers. I've developed enormous intimacy with numbers over the last few years. I've presented this many times, Dr. Polia, but I always look forward to it because it's different every time. And these cohorts perform differently. So, in terms of the class of 2025, we characterize the resilience of this class with the baobab tree. We are told that the baobab tree has the propensity to withstand virtually all adverse conditions. And we think that this is what the class of 2025 has been able to do. You'll see, as I go through the journey of this class, what they have really gone through. I also want to take this opportunity to convey our greatest appreciation and thanks to all the role players who made an enormous contribution to this class from when they were in 0 to 4 up to when they started grade R up to grade 12. And all of them are listed here in the number of categories of people who like to convey our greatest appreciation and thanks. We are guided by the National Development Plan, and I want to say it, I've said it before. The National Development Plan drives the work that we do every day. If you are in basic education, when you wake up every morning, what should come to your mind as to what are you going to do is to deliver on the imperatives of the National Development Plan. And the NDP works for us. It might not work for others, but for us in basic education, it drives the work that we do, and it gives us the sense of direction. Just to isolate 3 points from the extract, we are expected to contribute to an education and training system of the highest quality. South Africans take their education system very serious. So basic education is expected to contribute to that education of the highest quality, and which should lead to significantly improved learning outcomes. That's why whatever we do, whether from grade R to grade 12, whether it's 0 to 4-year-old, it must be about significantly improving learning outcomes. We are also expected to improve our performance in international tests, regional tests, including tests that we set domestically. We are also guided by what we call strategic direction, which are international obligations continental obligations, regional obligations, and domestic obligations. We report on some of this even to the Auditor General of South Africa. The sector has been growing steadily. The numbers are increasing, not as fast as we would like them to be, but it has been growing. We've tried to illustrate the growth of the sector here. The numbers that are in green signify the increase. In other words, we are saying the number that you see in black is plus the numbers that are in green. So the sector has been growing, whether you talk in the public sector, you can see in terms of this class, we've seen the growth of over 200,000 learners that got into the system, as you can see. During COVID, we are around 12 million. We are well over 13,700,000 learners in the system. The sad story is that the growth in learner numbers has not led to the requisite or proportional growth in teacher posts. The number of learners is increasing, but it doesn't increase proportional to the number of teachers who are supposed to teach those learners. The same applies to schools. You can see that we've built more schools, 376 schools. If you compare the schools that government has built, the private sector has built 237 schools. I'm sure we can do even more than that. The unique context of the class of 2025. This class started in grade 1 in 2014. It received education from CAP's Curriculum Assessment and Policy Statement, which is a national curriculum statement. In grade 8, this class experienced a number of challenges because they started grade 8 in 2021 at the height of COVID, where you experience stop and go in terms of rotational classrooms and so on. But not only that, this class also experienced a number of disruptions, as you can see, which we have summarized in the presentation. It was also not examination fit. And when learners are not examination fit, the remedy that you have is to expose them to more assessment to get them examination fit. We have to structure a recovery plan from 2021 to 2023 to make sure that in terms of contact time, time on task for learning, they do catch up. This is a very interesting slide which gets South Africa talking. It can become controversial at times, but for me, it's an innocent slide. Now, what we've tried to do this time around is just to illustrate the difference in progression in numbers between the class of 2024 and 2025. And the numbers in red indicate the increase in the progression of the numbers of the class of 2025 compared to the class of 2024. In other words, for us to arrive at 40,000 more learners, you track it from this slide. The decrease is observed, especially in grade 8 and grade 9. We know that grade 8 is the first grade of high school, and some people are saying it could, of course, be because of the transition from primary school to high school. And in grade 9, you can see that the cognitive demand of the curriculum is beginning to lead to more of these learners not being able to easily progress to grade 10. But you also see a big gap between grade 10 and grade 12, which is what we need to work on. Some people are saying schools might still be killing learners, which means retaining learners that do not guarantee them a very good pass in grade 12. But we are saying we are seeing an increase from 1 year to another in grade 12. We'll observe that and follow it closely with all our schools to make sure that the policy of progression is followed. And the policy of progression dictates that learners should not spend more than 4 years in a phase. Effectively, it means learners are allowed to fail only once, and beyond that, they must progress to the next grade. And by the way, I take it that you are aware that many countries in the world follow automatic progression. And when we made that revelation to our public, people thought that it's countries only in Africa, only to discover that it's actually countries who are in the developing world who are allowing automatic progression. This slide gives an indication of the learners who have been able to write exams for all the 7 subjects. In other words, if you miss one paper, you would still be accounted for as absent because you do not present all your papers unless if you are considered for concession. There are cases for concessions which we take to Umalusi for Umalusi to consider for concession. So it would include even learners who might have missed 2 papers, 3 papers, but it doesn't mean that they did not write exams at all. So the 2.34% includes everybody. The full-time enrollment, we had an increase, the highest number so far, which is good, which shows that the system is experiencing stability. The numbers are growing. In grade 12, as we have shown, that progression from one grade to the other, cumulatively, it then shows at the exit point of the system. Part-time candidates, the numbers are going down. The question is why? The logic is very simple. As the system performs better for full-time candidates, there are fewer learners who pitch as part-time candidates to improve their results. That's as simple as all that. So if we continue to improve our results, we reduce the cohort of part-time learners. And I want to encourage provinces to allow learners to repeat because they perform better when they repeat instead of going as part-time candidates. I've come across schools that allow learners to perform, and to repeat. And some of those schools attain 100% pass rate in many of our provinces. This is the breakdown for full-time candidates. I've already indicated the difference between this year and last year is 40,000. Part-time candidates, I've explained the reason why, the decrease. The growth between the female and male candidates, there's a slight decline of 0.2%, and that decline has been picked up by female candidates to a growth of 0.2. So it means the system is really stable. Enrollment per subjects, last year we indicated some decreases. For 2025 class, you can see there's growth all the way. The growth is not in the numbers that we are happy about, particularly in accounting, economics, business studies, mathematics. In our meeting with the president yesterday, he gave us this task. And I'm happy that we've started a project with the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. I saw some of the colleagues who are here already. We are going to work with provinces to make sure that we grow the numbers of mathematics. We have to grow the uptake of mathematics and technical mathematics to reduce the numbers of mathematical literacy. Mathematical literacy is important for social use, for people to be able to manage their lives and run their lives personal lives and otherwise effectively. But we need to reduce the numbers to increase those numbers of mathematics and technical mathematics. Technical subjects, slight increase. If I would have it my way, I would lobby the whole country. This is where we should go. The whole country should be mobilized to get its children to offer technical subjects. Technical subjects are important for now and the future. If you are interested in the future and your survival now, technical subjects is the way to go. It's not like during our times, when you do technical subjects, then you are deemed to be less cognitively abled, or not as intelligent as people who are following the academic stream. In fact, the future bodes better or well for those who follow the technical stream than any other stream. So the numbers are growing, but they are growing in a very minuscule manner. So we need to grow those numbers. The president also challenged us to come up with a plan to make sure that we grow the numbers of technical subjects. And I said to the president, we actually need a technical school for every circuit. There are 889 circuits in the country. At least every circuit must have a technical high school so that we move these numbers. 60 to 70% of our children must do technical subjects, rather than over 90% of them doing academic pathway. And this is the breakdown of the numbers. South African Sign Language. We've had a slight drop to 158, a drop of about 17. And I was saying to the team, the growth was too phenomenal. In 2024, Professor Balim, it's because parents kept their children in 2020, 2021, and then in 2022, boom, 210. Now, the system is beginning to normalize. You can see that 150, 160 is where we should be, actually. Progressed learners. The system is also beginning to cleanse itself. Progression is no longer a swear word, and you can see that the numbers are also reducing. So most or many learners are able to meet the requirements for progression. So you don't need to push them through because of the policy. You can see that there's drastic reduction in the number of progressed learners. Full-time enrollment by age. The system is also showing great stability. You can see we still have learners at 17-year-old in grade 12. We still have them at age 16, age 15. And the question might be, where do they come from? Because they are supposed to have started school at age 7. Some come from home education. Some come from, other institutions or pathways of learning, like online learning, of course, after going through primary school and so on, at a very early age, and they do very well. And somebody said they seem to be progressing very well when you take them as early as possible. And you can see the older learners going down, it's actually tapering down as you move with the graph. Part-time, you can also see that many learners are actually going to enroll for part-time to upgrade their subjects. It could be learners who enrolled in 2024, 2025, they come to enroll to improve their subjects because they want to increase their prospects of furthering their studies and so on. And that you can also see, many of them are young. And as you go down with the graph, the numbers are reducing drastically, which means young people are really interested in the future. Young people are getting themselves ready for the future. We just have to get the market receptive to their efforts and so on. Full-time enrollment by age and gender. Female learners are doing exceptionally well. The issue of early unwanted pregnancies, getting learners to drop out of school, the data doesn't agree with that. The data seems to tell a different story. It says girls are coming back, and girls are coming back better than boys. And this is good news for the country. It means our policies are working. Our policy on learner pregnancy is working, allowing our girl learners to come back to school and to support them and make sure that they succeed. In terms of part-time, again, girl learners seem to be more serious about picking up the pieces, upgrading, and making sure that they meet the requirements of the certificate, and they also upgrade so that they further their studies. They seem to be exceeding in numbers compared to boys. And this again bodes very well for our country. It means our policies are beginning to have that impact of getting learners to prioritize their education and make sure that they are ready. Here is another excellent story about learners with special education needs. The numbers have grown by over 4,000 learners with special education needs, the most vulnerable in our society. Development of any country, experts are saying you also measure it by the extent to which it looks after its most vulnerable. And therefore you can see that the numbers have grown here, which is good. Barriers to learning for learners with special education needs, and many of these are in our mainstream schools. They are not necessarily in your schools for learners with special education needs. For instance, a learner who requires a scribe, a learner who requires more time to do work, to write exams, to do assessments, and so on, are in your mainstream school. They are not necessarily in your schools for learners with special education needs. Our system is able to cater for that, and we do a comparison between 2024 and 2025. You can see that the numbers have grown from 8,000 to 10,000. Almost more by about 2,300 more barriers to learning which have been identified. Now, how do you respond to barriers to learning? You provide what is called accommodation and concession. And this is for 2024, you had 10,000 accommodation, 737. In 2025, the number has grown by over 7,000 of learners who are accommodated in the system. So if you had doubts that we only focus on these learners who do not have barriers and we don't provide support to others, the data says we've made a very good attempt in making sure that we provide for those learners who need support. We still need to reach out to many, and many of the children who need this accommodation are in quintile 1 to 3, the poorest of the poor. And government will have to pay the bill to make sure that they go through assessment and they are also taken on board to be among these ones. Because before you qualify for that, you have to go through assessment. And as government, we have to make sure that we reach out to the poor, because the middle class are able to pay that on their own. Social grants. Well, I've got sweet and sour news here. The sour news is that learners who still benefit from the grant have reduced by 139,574. This is sad. In fact, not reduced by 139, they've reduced by 13,058, sorry. They've reduced by 13,058. But those who are no longer receiving the grant, They have now increased by 44,741. We discussed this with the president. We said, President, it can't be right. The grant is not available at the time when these learners need it most. In their grade 12 year, in their final year of schooling. We said, it can't be right. President said, put a proposal together with social development. Come to cabinet. This would come out well as an incentive to keep them at school and say, for as long as you are at school, you can receive the grant. I know for those who are in charge of finances, it might not suggest good news. It might mean we dig deeper into the coffers of the country. But if it's about our children, our future, then let's all sacrifice and make sure that our children are cushioned and they are able to do well in grade 12. This is different types of social grants. Child support grant being the biggest, both in active and inactive. This is the support program. And our philosophy is that the primary support is in the classroom. It's directed to the teacher, to the learner, basic functionality of our classrooms, our schools. There must be LTSM, there must be ICT support, there must be programs that are focused on the classroom. The rest of these other things of the extra tuition and so on, they are just supplementary to the main. The main is the focus in the classroom. And for the past few years, I think we've made an indelible mark in focusing on the classroom. Working with our entities like the NECT, working with our NGO like PILO and others to lay a solid foundation in the classroom. And of course, you need to support what happens in the classroom and the school and so on. And this is what is listed here as the support that is provided in our schools and our classroom. The diagnostic report is important. It's an amazing resource which should be in the hands of every learner, every educator. And how the diagnostic report is put together after every examination, the chief markers, internal moderators, who took the pain to abandon their holidays. They meet at DBE, they look at how learners have performed, look at the errors, look at the misconceptions, document them, and say, this is what we have found. And this is how you correct the errors. This is how you correct the misconception. And if every learner and every teacher could have a diagnostic report, I'm sure it's going to be easy, Professor Balim, to go over 90%. Because teachers and learners would know what to avoid, and they will know what to focus on to get the best mark ever. So this is an important resource which every learner and teacher must have. We're targeting the gateway subjects at the moment, but the specialists are even developing the same for others. Provinces are also doing the same to develop their own diagnostic reports. Well, in the course of carrying out national duty, we unfortunately lost one marker, one national priceless precious asset. A teacher whose area of specialization is mathematics tragically got demised on her way to the marking. We want to, even at the moment, convey our profound and profuse condolences to the family and friends, but celebrate her immense contribution and pledge to continue to work hard and sacrifice like this teacher did. The size of the enterprise. Now, the president, when we told the president that This enterprise is second only to national and local government elections. It's huge. It's intensive. It starts with the number of candidates, full-time, part-time, question papers, 162, 11 million printed question papers, 11 million. 10.8 million scripts from learners who would have written from these question papers, 6,948 examination centers, 75 invigilators. And I want to salute the invigilators because they get the system to run. But I want to express our disappointment about some invigilators who are not doing their work. Learners are involved in group copying because it's facilitated by some of the teachers and some of the invigilators. Learners use cell phones in the examination room because invigilators are not picking this up. Learners are not supposed to get with these devices into the examination room to start with. The learners that got their results withheld, we believe, in fact, the National Investigation Task Team has picked up that some of these activities took place under the watch of invigilators. We're very sad about those. But we know the overwhelming majority of our invigilators are doing their work and they do it exceptionally well. And we are very proud of them. 192 marking centers spread across the length and breadth of the country, 55,000 markers, and that's the size of this enterprise. And this is the breakdown. Just a few observations regarding challenges. Learners who took ill because of lots of anxiety. The NSC, it's also associated with a lot of stress. And somebody said this morning when I was briefing them, this stress cuts across the grades. So we need to up our psychosocial support, not only in grade 12, but even from the lowest grade, covering both learners and teachers. I've committed that in January, I'm going to mobilize psychosocial support this month and make sure that we cover all grades and all the teachers. Water and electricity, we are not spared from that. We do face challenges of water and electricity. Inclement weather, and I'll show you some of the pictures. We had to meet every day to guide marking centers, to support provinces in managing inclement weather, whether it's excessive heat, whether it's heavy rainfall, all types of inclement weather as to what should be done. We had to really focus on marker well-being and raise pertinent issues around the well-being of markers to make sure that our markers are able to do their work and finish in 10 days. The leakage of question papers was a big blow in our hard work, in our enormous sacrifice. But credit goes to the National Investigation Task Team, who have done an excellent work. Men and women with an impeccable track record of performance, who worked flat out when some of us were on holiday during the festive season. They were working up to New Year's Day, pulling it through. On the 6th of January, they were ready to present the report to Umalusi. We really want to thank them. We've got amazing South Africans who are able to do this work. But this must be avoided. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we plug on the gaps that have been identified throughout the entire system to make sure that we don't experience a repeat of this. I've learned from Professor Balim. Professor Balim says there is nothing in life that is fail-proof. In other words, that is insulated from failure. He says it's an engineering philosophy. You build bridges in such a way when they fail, they still remain safe. So we need to build our system such that when they fail, they still remain safe. Where there are lapses, we review, we strengthen, and we make sure that we plug on the gaps identified. We also experience protest actions, and I must say that we are pleased that no learner missed an exam this time around because of protest action. Law enforcement agencies, our officials and teachers did exceptionally well to make sure that learners do not miss exams. This is what happened in Harry Gwala district in KZN. Ponela Special School. I visited this school as one of the marking centers that I visited. The day before I visited them, they experienced a terrible hailstorm, which destroyed the windscreens of many of their cars. The cars were dented. We're showing just a few of them. The evening after I left to cover other centers, I then learned about the second storm that visited them again, and they had, some of them were using even mattresses to try and cover the windscreens of their cars from experiencing a similar damage that you see here. This is the sacrifice that teachers are making. And if teachers are making this sacrifice, I always say the sacrifice that we are making compared to what teachers are making is a walk in the park. National Senior Certificate, pass requirements. I think this is the favorite topic of Mr. Musi Maimani. I will leave it to him, but my humble plea is that he could also look at some of the bullet points that he might miss when he reads these pass requirements. But I wouldn't want to take much of your time, telling you about what the requirements. There is no qualification that allows learners to pass with only 30%. Even the National Senior Certificate, you at least have to pass your home language at 40%, as you can see. You must obtain at least 40% of the 2 other subjects. Then the others, you can get them at 30%. And we are pleased, Honorable Sharif, about the fact that Parliament did not allow that motion to go through. It would have been a sad day for our country. I think would be a laughing stock of the world. That matters that are specialized in this nature are decided in Parliament instead of leaving it to the experts to deal with them. Standardization, I think it's important to understand that standardization is your moderation. Moderation is important in education. Sometimes papers are set far above the standard. Sometimes are set far below the standard. That's where standardization comes in. And I want to use this opportunity to say that when the Assessments and Standards Committee of Umalusi standardizes the subject, they don't do it individually. They standardize a subject, the whole group. And it depends where your marks are on the graph. They are not targeting learners. They don't do it learner by learner. So we've received letters where people are saying, Umalusi standardized this subject by bringing it down. That's why my marks are lower. Where were you on the graph? First, you must tell us where you were on the graph. And secondly, standardization is not for individual learners, but it's for a group. It's an international phenomenon. In other countries, they use boundaries. They move boundaries. 1 year, if the paper it appears to be easier, the boundary is moved up. If it appears to be difficult, they lower the boundary. I think there are experts in the room, they explain this even more. I think it's important. You can see that the decisions that we arrived at brought us at 56 subjects accepted on raw out of 68, which is 82% comparable only to 2012 at the same percentage, and you can see. And some people, when they interpret this, they say the system is beginning to stabilize. Well, as I'm about to finish, a system such as ours, the health of the system is not only determined by matric results. There are many indicators that determine the health of the system. Worldwide, UNESCO uses what is called social justice principle to determine progress, especially in social services. We've made some progress, in fact, good progress, in 4 out of 6. We are beginning to make an indelible mark in the 2 that were giving us problems in the past. You'll see, even in the results that we are going to share with you. Well, Minister Kwahube will unblock this section that is blocked here. But the good news is that we are making progress, making good progress in the system. You can see, of course, I must put a caveat. The population must be taken into account of each and every period because it's not the same. I think currently we're sitting about 68 million in the country. So you have to take that into account when you look at these different years or different dispensations. The same, but the good trend here is that, I mean, our results have been going up. And I told people this morning that I served in this sector when we're at 50% and below. 50% and below. We never dreamt that it would happen in our lifetime, that we'll have our performance at 80%. It never happened. And I challenged colleagues, I said 90% must happen in our lifetime. Must still happen in our lifetime. And I mean, the sector has been going up. We dropped in 2020. And when we said to people, it's real, it's COVID, learners were not going to school regularly, they were unable to prepare properly, they said it's an excuse. But look at what happened in 2021. We went up. 22, we maintained the trend. 23, the trajectory is continuing. 24, we even moved up by over 4%. So, which means that there is stability in the system. And it's very rare that you find a system as big as ours being able to maintain a trajectory, an upward trajectory of this nature. Right, and this is what is going to be announced by the minister, delineating the results per province there. And here you can see we've even worked out where the improvements are. And the president commended us that the basic education sector has got immense data. You just get lost in this maze of data. You can see that fee-paying schools, we're able to work out how they've performed. And the AG will be very happy about this because we are really here determining value for money. Value for money. Independent schools, you can see we even showing you the improvement across provinces and so on, which can tell you how provinces are performing in those 3 categories of schools. And later on, we'll then be able to show you the majority of schools are in your no-fee-paying schools. The reason why we block them, if you get the data from that site, you've got the results. You don't need to come and wait for the minister. The gender split, there is an improvement. Boys doing slightly better than girl learners. But the difference, or the differences are very minuscule. Bachelor trends, you can see we've also been going up, just going up that way. But last year's improvement was too big. Systems as big as ours have got a tendency to self-correct. You've seen with learners with special education need, if there's a big jump, the system brings you back and say, not so high. You need to move gradually. It's a big system. It's like a Boeing 747. Bachelor pass trends by numbers over the years, again, you can see the numbers have just been growing, and we expect the numbers to grow even this year. We expect an improvement there even this year. Bachelor numbers per province, we expect provinces to also improve in this regard. Broadly, we expect provinces to improve. Percentages, and then passes by type of qualifications. You can see that diploma passes, higher certificate, including national senior certificate, the performance is better than last year. I can say it here. It's better than last year. You can see it. Bachelor's and diploma passes by fee-paying school. We're showing you there that fee-paying, there's an improvement of 0.3%. Independent schools, 1.2%. Fee-paying school, a drop of 2.2% in terms of bachelor and diploma passes. And then again, we comparing performance by qualification type, and we comparing 2024 and 2025. 2025 seems to be doing slightly better than 2024. And then bachelor achievements by grades. We looked at, by gender, sorry. We looked at overall performance by gender. This time we're looking at only bachelor. You can see that the males dropped by 2% and the females dropped by 1%, which means the girl learners, again, they are doing better. I'm going to move over this a little faster. The numbers are getting better towards the right, up to 80 to 100% and 100% and so on. You can see that the system is doing very well, it's improving, which means on the left, the numbers are getting lesser and they are increasing towards the right. Progressed learners, the performance is 54.30%, and the province that leads all other provinces here is in Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga is leading, and it's followed by KwaZulu-Natal, as you can see in terms of progressed learners. And these are, the performance of progressed learners by achievement and qualification. I'm going to move over. You can see the contribution is 6.3%. And this is just the pie graph to show the performance of the 9 provinces. You can see Mpumalanga is head and shoulder above everyone else, followed by KZN. And then schools by poverty level, quintiles. Quintile 1 to 3. You can see, again, I want to draw your attention to 80 to 100% and 100% and above. Of course, in terms of 100, quintile 1 to 3 dropped this year compared to last year. But in terms of 80 to 100, you can see an improvement there. And the rest of the other categories have gone up. This is the favorite slide of the president. He calls this slide a silent revolution that the country doesn't seem to pay attention to. Now, in 2000, the year 2000 and before, 80% of bachelors were accounted for by 20% of schools, which are your affluent schools. In 2025, you can see we've moved leaps and bounds. That picture has changed, which means that 20% of your schools will be your affluent schools, quintile 4 and 5. But the picture is changing, and I challenged one of our stakeholders today, I said to them, in the next 5 to 10 years, we need to look at 80% of bachelors coming from quintile 1 to 3. It will be a healthy split. 20% quintile 4 and 5. It doesn't mean when you increase the quota of quintile 1 to 3, the quintile 4 to 5 will underperform. They would still perform, but the split will be much healthier, reflecting the reality of the country. Because over 80% of our schools are no fee-paying schools. Over 90% of our schools are receiving national school for national program for school funding. So you can see that quintile 1 to 3, slight drop of 0 to 4, but an increase of 3,509 bachelors because of the proportion of the size of the group that enrolled. Even though the percentage has increased, but the number, the percentage has decreased, the number has increased. Quintile 4 to 5, slightly increased by 0 to 4%, and contributing 3,823. We can still grow this even further going forward. In the interest of time, I'm going to run quicker over the other slides. Age, the notion of catching them young, the younger they are, the better they perform. Because they focus on education. They don't have other things to focus on. They just focus on schooling. And what we emphasize is that learners must go to school every day. Go to school every day. If you are online, keep to the point of contact every day. Here, what we are trying to demonstrate is that except for areas that we've highlighted with circles, like age 16, in other areas, the class of 2025 is performing better than the class of 2024 in terms of age. In terms of gender, again, girl learners, where we have circled, girl learners are doing better than boys. And you can see it's in the majority of those ages, girl learners are simply performing better, finishing their schooling on time. And this is the breakdown. I'm going to move and I'm going to jump this one. You can see that in accounting, Limpopo is leading in performance in terms of achievement. Limpopo is followed by Western Cape. Mathematics achievement, Western Cape is leading, and it's followed by Northwest. Physical science, Limpopo is leading again, and followed by Western Cape. Technical mathematics, KZN is leading the pack, pushing it almost to 100%. Maths participation, the number of learners who are doing mathematics. And let me emphasize, there are 3 types of mathematics that we are offering in our schools. It's pure mathematics, it's technical mathematics, mathematics for artisans, technical mathematics if you want to know. And then there's mathematical literacy. Mathematical literacy is for social use, to be able to run your personal life better, to work out your accounts and be able to manage your budget on a day-to-day life. You need math lit to prepare you for that. In fact, some experts are saying even those that are doing technical maths and pure mathematics, they need math lit to be able to run their lives properly. Because there'll be maths experts, there'll be astronomers who don't know how to run their lives, medical doctors, and even pilots don't know how to run their lives. Bachelors, KZN is leading in terms of percentages, of course followed by the Western Cape. Distinction, KZN is leading, and of course followed by the Western Cape. Throughput, Western Cape is leading, followed by Eastern Cape. South African Sign Language, there's an improvement of 1.3%, which is good. Raw marks that were attained from their examination. And I want to thank the ASC of Umalusi for having said to us, you have to work on the South African Sign Language. Make sure that you support these schools and support learners. Here they are. On their own, they are able to perform. Technical maths, these subjects are doing well. You can see overall they are doing well. There might be some slight drops in some of these subjects, but overall they are doing well. There's no reason why our children are not doing these subjects. The majority of them have got to do them because that's what will equip them better to be more attracted by the market and be able to solve our problems now and even in the future. These are the home languages. You can see some of them drop slightly, as you can see there. These are the official first languages. You can see overall performance good, but drop in some. And these are the selected subjects. You see some of them dropped, and some of them went up. You can say that the summary of our story is sweet and sour. First additional language level, and that's the performance there. Technical subjects, as I've said, some of the decline, you see, it's very minuscule, it's very small. But we have to be transparent. These are the numbers that we put out. Well, the good news is that we no longer have any district that is below 80% in the Republic of South Africa. Nobody thought that it can be achieved. In fact, some districts that we are about to give up on have performed so well that they've even exceeded expectation. I think we can give them a big hand of applause. Now, in the top 10 districts, there's a lot of movement there, and I must warn, even in the ranking of provinces, there's movement. Some which were on the top, they are no longer in the top. If you look for them, you have to find them somewhere. Some which were in the middle are no longer there. Some which were at the bottom, you will not find them there. You can see even the top 10 districts, some of them are brand new. Some were there, and we are indicating the analysis there. And I think the hard work has paid off in many respects. I mean, we're calling our bottom 10 districts, they are above 80. You can see them. They are above 80, but we call them bottom 10. And the message that I want to remind the district directors about, we said get out of the 80s, go 90 and above, you'll sit comfortably there. There's too much traffic in the 80s. Puma empakatini. There's too much. I mean, the differences around the 80s are very small. In fact, we had great difficulty. We had to move to the 3rd decimal point to rank districts. So get out of the 80s, go to the 90s. You'll sit comfortably there. Learners with special education needs, we've seen an improvement there. You can see that Gauteng is leading there in terms of learners with special education needs. Distinctions, you can see that there's a bit of hemorrhaging there. And I said to the President, austerity measures are beginning to bite. And they start with the quality. They hit at our quality, Mr. President. And the president said, come back, tell me what is it that you want me to do so that we deal with some of the challenges that you are saying are caused by austerity measures. Some of the food soldiers, circuit managers, subject advisors are unable to visit the schools and support them as often as they should because the budget doesn't allow. They are limited. You exceed your limit, you can't go and visit, you can't go and monitor. And the president said we must come back and talk to him. The selected subjects, you can see it's a mixed bag. Some of them have gone down. Distinctions among progressed learners, that's the picture. Who would have thought that as a progressed learner, there's somebody who can get distinctions in mathematics and physical science? You might end up getting somebody who becomes a pilot, who becomes a medical doctor, who was given a tag of a progressed learner. Simply because learners, were faced with some glitches in their progression, you don't condemn them to underperformance. And as I always maintain, there's no dustbin for human beings. So you can see that progressed learners can also perform better than expected. Well, the third news is that learners who receive social grants, the performance has dropped from 86.06 to 77.70, but the number of learners who passed increased by 33,258. I'm sure some are saying this is contradictory. It's not. Because of the size of the group that went through the system, the percentage has gone down, but the numbers have gone up because they are more than the learners of last year. Far more than the learners of last year. And this is what I referred to earlier on. You can see that there's a slight drop between active and inactive. But look at those who are no longer receiving the grant, the impact is even bigger. Thanks to the challenge that the president put to us to say we must take to cabinet a proposal to keep these learners in the system so that they perform even better in future. In terms of gender, there's a drop also. Females drop by 9.91%, and the males drop by 6.17%. Performance by qualification, you can see it there as we compare these two. Correctional services, from 96.18 to 96.15, they dropped only by 0.03. I'm sure you can applaud them. Minister Lamola is going to throw a very big party. The part-time candidates, they improved by 3.78%, correctional services, and in selected subjects for part-time learners, our part-time learners have performed very well compared to last year and previous years. I'm sure you can applaud them as well. You can see their subjects have really improved. That brings me to the end, and we've summarized the results in terms of the social justice principle. Thank you very much for indulging me, and thank you.